Hi guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel again. Welcome back to Mighty Woman of Valor. So last time we talked about the in-between from thinking to acting. So this time we will be talking about another very important topic. We will be dealing with the Universal Chessboard. Right? God has a plan for your plan and every other plan. So imagine life as a chessboard, people moving, situations shifting, strategies forming. It feels very complex and complicated, right? But what if I told you that behind every move, yours, that of others, even the enemy's move, God is still in control? God is the sovereign, all knowing mastermind, as in the wisdom, the preeminent wisdom behind it all. He has a plan for you and every piece on the chessboard, and it will always be, it's not just 10,000 steps ahead or 10 steps ahead, it's an eternity ahead. Like time doesn't even limit him, he is an eternity ahead because he knows the ending from the beginning. Imagine with me again, we just talked about the chessboard analogy, right? I'm pretty sure, I am 100% sure that the person that came up with the idea of the chessboard did not just think of it randomly. It is the creative ability that God has placed in us that enabled that person to actually create this game that people can play, you know, known as the chessboard, right? Because the same creative ability that was in God that enabled him to create me and you in his image, in his likeness. Let us make man, right? So that same creation is in us. So we have the ability to create as well. And yeah, I refuse to believe that that person just like, they just thought of it because it was their own idea. No, no, I'm sure God was like, get this idea, a game that would be like exactly what I'm doing with the world and everything in it. And therefore the chessboard was born. Anyways, let's continue. Sorry for digressing a bit. But we have to have an understanding that God has factored in everything. I mean everything, including your actions, your mistakes, the mistakes of others, people around you, even your own, permit me to say this, even your own stupidity, the Lord has factored it in too. And your own ways of like misaligning or trying to take back control, the Lord has factored all of that in. The evil that was meant for you, the Lord has factored that in. Satan's plans and the plans of the powers of darkness, the Lord has factored it in. And even the plans of like family members and other people that are around you, peers, what sort of pressure might come, your culture, the background that you're born into, the type of family that you're born into, whatever generational limitations, boundaries, whatever. God has factored all of that in. So I know it is very mind-blowing. I think it is very mind-blowing too. Look at 1 Samuel 16 verse 1, the C part, to further buttress the point, because it's always important that we go back to the word, right? The Bible says you should test all things and hold onto that which is true. So how do you test all things? How do you know that I'm not telling you nonsense? You go back to the word. Always go back to the word and check and compare. Yeah. 1 Samuel 16, the C part, it says, "For I have provided myself a king among his sons." For context, let's just read chapter 16 verse 1, the whole verse 1, just for context. Now the Lord said to Samuel, how long will you mourn for Saul, saying, I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and go. I am sending you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided myself a king among his sons. Wait, don't rush, let it sink. Okay, just let it sink. Take a moment. Now let's read it again. For I have provided myself a king among his sons. I need you to understand the wording there. God did not say, I will provide. He didn't say, I think I should provide. No. He didn't say, I'm planning to provide. I have it in mind to provide. No. He said, for I have provided. And notice he didn't say provide. He said provided, which means past tense. I have provided myself. That myself, he has provided to himself in that context. Fine, there it looks like myself, but if you go deeper into it, you realize that it's more than just myself. It's God has provided unto himself, as in for himself, by himself, a king among the sons of Jesse. Now we are talking about David, because God had rejected Saul at this point, and David obviously is going to replace Saul, right? That's why the prophet Samuel had to go and anoint him. So like God had provided himself, by himself, unto himself, a king among his sons. Another language you should also notice, he did not say, I have provided David. God knows David's name. He could have just said, yeah, I've provided David. He could have said, I've provided one of Jesse's sons to, yeah, I'm thinking is a potential candidate to inherit the throne. I mean, let's just look at it for now. You know, the same way like we human beings, when we have like political stuff, elections, or we want to vote about something, we say, okay, these are, or like if you go for a job interview, there might be 3 potential candidates, and the company is looking at, okay, maybe, most likely, probably. But God is not saying, David is not saying maybe, most likely, probably, as in this is a very sure. There is 100% surety in this sentence right here. The day I was doing my Bible study and God opened my eyes to this, I felt like running. I felt like running around the room and like doing this drum roll clap and then speaking in tongues, because I'm like, nah, this is so good. Like, Lord, yeah, you're getting me on this, because it also changes the way you see yourself as a child of God. You realize that there is no power, as in, I'm talking, no power. There is no devil. There is no one. Not even your parents. Not even, like, as in speaking. There is absolutely no one that can stop the plans and purposes of God for your life. Not even you. You might think you're so smart, but the Lord is sneakier than you. So even you cannot stop God's plans and purposes for your life. You can try to fight it, sure. And if you fight it to an extent that you refuse his will completely, that's why he gave us willpower, choice, right? He will respect you and leave you alone. Fine, you don't want to go his way, okay? But as long as you've given your life to him, or you're planning to give your life to him, or from the moment you give your life to him, there is, I'm saying there is nothing, there is no one that can stop what God has predestined, predetermined, preordained He said, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you, Jeremiah, and I ordained you a prophet to the nations. As in, this was not an afterthought. Like, you were not created, and I was like, yo, so what should I do with this little boy? Like, no, 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 no. Like, it's already in the, you need to understand. You're not getting it. You need to understand that in the eyes of God, you are already who He has called you to be. Your failures does not matter. Your mistakes does not matter. All that does not matter to God. Lord, I make a lot of mistakes. I'm not this, I'm not that. You can sing your disqualifications and sing all the reasons why you are not right and you're not that person. And God will be like, yup, it's you, and it can only be you. There's nobody else. It's just you. You're the only one that can do it. And you're like, God, but I don't understand. Why me? Because it is you. Because God has designed you to be that person. It's funny how, like, God calls us things and we don't even realize that we are that powerful. We are that person. We don't realize the potential that is in us. We don't even realize our own designs. We don't realize why we are the way we are. A lot of people say stuff like, even I have said it before, like, why am I like this? Because you are. Because you are the way you are. Because that's how God created you to be. I used to, like, I'm a very emotionally sensitive person. From when I was like a child, I used to be a crybaby. Any little thing like this, cry baby. Even when somebody says something I don't like, I just cry. Instead of making a comeback, I'm crying, right? And I'm like, why do I feel so much? Why am I so soft? Why am I so sensitive? Because I am. Because the Lord did, and the Lord said, and He commanded it to be. Because I'm supposed to be me. I'm supposed to be the way I am. Because I'm supposed to be soft. Because I'm supposed to be emotionally sensitive. Because that's exactly the design, the makeup that He has created for me to be that person He wants me to be. For me to fulfill purpose and fulfill my destiny, I cannot be a hard-headed person. I have to be me, the emotionally sensitive, soft crybaby, all of that, me. You get it? So you need to understand that there is no, as in, God did not say David. He did not mention David's mistakes. He did not say, oh, the shepherd boy, the one that keeps the sheep of his father. He did not say the boy that is segregated or ostracized from the rest of his family, as in even his dad did not even remember that he had another child until when Prophet Samuel was like, do you have any other son? Because the one I want to anoint isn't here, obviously. God did not say all of that. God does not call you, oh yeah, the suicidal one, the depressed one, the anxious one. No. He calls you by who He has created you to be. So as far as God is concerned, David did not become king because Prophet Samuel anointed him. He was always meant to be a king. He was created to be a king. And God is like, I have provided unto myself. I need you to understand that. Provision, meaning God has placed everything in David that he needs to be a king. God has shifted everything on the chessboard to make sure that either David likes it or not, either the enemy likes it or not, either David's generational pattern or some trauma or some losses like it or not, David is going to be king. David is going to be king. But don't get me wrong, don't hear what I did not say, make no mistake. I am not saying that we are all God's pawns and stuff. That's not what I mean. You are not a pawn. You are a chosen and special piece in God's agenda. And your role is to obey, just like David did. Your role is to align, just like David did. But if you decide, like I said earlier, to misalign or remove yourself out of that agenda, or you say, God, I don't want to got nothing to do with you, or you say you don't want to obey, or you just decide that no, then God will respect you because you have a willpower and a choice. But know that you've already made a decision. But the moment you make that decision to be surrendered to God, to be his son, to be his daughter, then you can be sure that you are on that chessboard. And there is nothing, I'm saying there is nothing that can stand in the way of who God has called you to be. You need to understand that God's plans, they are not reactions. They are not spontaneous. They have been, as in, well, they were not just well thought of. They were well organized, well put into place, well planned. That at this certain, isn't it funny how at this certain exact moment in time, this is just going to happen. For me, God was like, the moment this girl is 20 years old, for some reason, in some sort of ways, I'm going to set up a series of events, and at this moment, at this time, she's going to be exactly here, and that person is going to be there, and she's going to give her life to Christ. Of course, there's the place of like your role or responsibility, which was me saying yes to Jesus, right? But either I say yes or no, it doesn't change God's plan. God had still planned it that at that moment it was going to come to me. I was going to, or I'm supposed to, give my life to him, right? So it's not also an excuse for someone to be like, yeah, but I didn't know, nobody told me about it. Well, I'm telling you right now. So yeah. I also want you to understand that God authored this chessboard, okay, and he owns it. He owns it. God will always pull a Joseph if you let him. What do I mean by pull a Joseph? If you know a bit of the story of Joseph, you know that he went through a lot. He even got sent to prison for what he did not even do, a crime he did not commit, and he was there for X number of years until he was remembered. God gave Pharaoh a dream, and then he was brought before Pharaoh, and then he could interpret the dream, and he became Zaphna Paneah, the prime minister, yeah, and second in command to the Pharaoh. Okay, so I'm saying God can always pull a Joseph if you let him. And I like one thing Joseph said. Joseph told his brothers, was like, what you meant for me, for evil, yeah, my God turned it around for good. God turned it around for good. I know you meant it for evil, but God was like, even that evil, I factored it in. It will still work according to my plan. It will still work. I will still use it to teach you something. I will still turn it around. So I want you to also understand that everything that you go through in life, there's a purpose for it. Don't get me wrong now. I know that some people like to think that maybe God is the one that causes suffering and lets people suffer or whatever. No. We are not doing that here. Okay? Painful things happen because we live in a broken and unfair world. And life is perverse. Human beings are wicked to the heart. So it's not about what you did or didn't do, or if you deserved it, or everybody has gone through it at some point. But I'm saying even that you went through, God can still turn it around for your good, because he's God like that. He can do that. He's the only one that can do something like that, that can bring purpose out of pain, that can build something beautiful out of suffering. Like, doesn't it just blow your mind? If something that is supposed to like be very bad that happened to you, that's supposed to keep you in this loop or cycle of endless hurt and bitterness and everything, and God does something with it. He does like a few tweaks, and he brings beauty out of ashes. God is just God like that. You have to understand also that your ways are not his ways. For example, we as human beings, we are more concerned about building our resume. We are concerned about the things that we want in the moment. We are sometimes people are driven by what they see and what they feel and what they hear. So someone could just wake up one day and be like, yeah, I want a Maserati. No, God doesn't roll like that. He doesn't move like that. Fine, your father wants to give you every good thing, but is that Maserati actually your, do you really need that right now? No. You want a Maserati, but your character is not even all that yet. So God is more interested in building your character than giving you a Maserati. So in your own, you might be thinking, oh, God, this is what I really need right now. But God is like, nah, according to my calendar, no, you don't. We have some other very important things to work on. Also, we are always thinking, people think selfishly. They think only about themselves. Me, 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 me. Main character syndrome. What about me? What I feel, what I want, all those stuff. But God does not just think about you. He's thinking about to your 14th generation. He's not just thinking about you. He's thinking about destinies that are connected to you. He's thinking about your descendants. As in, you are not, at that moment, you are thinking you. But God is thinking about your great-grandchildren after you're long gone. And because of that, he's not just going to make any moves carelessly like you and I would. So it's important that we also submit to God's plans, right? It's important that we submit to that universal chessboard and just let ourselves be beautiful pieces in the story that God is writing, right? Life is unpredictable. The world is completely unpredictable. But when you're playing with God, every move, I repeat, every move is part of a greater plan to bring you to the most beautiful and most glorious destination. In conclusion, I pray that we are all surrendered to God and that our plans, they're in His hands. I pray that God will help us trust Him in ways that we will be able to give all of our ultimate moves and everything to God. And even those things that God will do that we don't comprehend yet, or we don't see the bigger picture, I pray that we learn to understand that God has taken into account every detail. Yes, so you have nothing to worry about. Don't give yourself headache. Go to sleep at night and sleep properly, knowing that your Father in heaven is not playing, okay? He's working 24/7. So that is the word I have for us today. If you have not subscribed yet, you know exactly what to do. You know what to do. And thank you for liking the video. And if this has blessed you, do not hesitate to share it with others. Let's not hoard something that blesses us, okay? Let's let other people be blessed too. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.